Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's talk about this show that just dropped on Netflix on January 1st called Messiah.
This is bigger than what you can imagine.
Not only is it very ambitious, it has a very audacious premise, and yet it's very grounded with a terrific global narrative, and it's very provocative and timely.
Are you the Messiah?
I am here to bring about the world to come.
And so the show concentrates on the question, who is this man?
Is your world good? Is it evil? What you see will be your choosing.
I watched all 10 episodes of the first season. Seems like there's going to be another one. Sorry for that spoiler. There won't be that many spoilers in here, but it's kind of strange. I put in the title here, progressive Christian. That's what I am. I'm a progressive Christian. I would define that as Christian who integrates the insights of modern scholarship. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about things from a Christian perspective, but also very much influenced by modern scholarship that has been gifted to modern Christianity, which is great. And with that, I just want to start off by saying I really didn't like this series. And the reason isn't because I thought it was blasphemous or offensive or how could you do Jesus like that or anything like that. Like some Christians or other religious people didn't like this series for those reasons. I felt like I didn't like it because it didn't go far enough. It's not that it went too far, it didn't go far enough. And this isn't me being nitpicky. I feel like the whole foundation of the thing wasn't going far enough. And you can't get irritated with me if part of my critique is that it's not really realistic or really like what the Messiah would be if he came today. You can't get frustrated at that because part of the promo of the whole series is, if the Messiah showed up today, what would you do?
Imagine the Messiah would show up today, but you wouldn't be able to prove that he is the Messiah, and you wouldn't be able to prove that he's not. How would you react?
After seeing the actual series, that clip from the behind the scenes stuff, so cheesy, so cheesy. Also, kind of on that subject, the biggest reason that I didn't like this series is because I actually just thought it was bad. It was just boring, painfully boring. They didn't even tell us anything at the end, and no characters really arced much. Like, what makes a good story is okay, person starts out in a familiar situation, goes into an unfamiliar situation, faces some challenges, overcomes those challenges, returns having changed. That's a story. And when it comes to even TV series, you may think, oh, well, that story should take over a whole series. No. There needs to be an arc in a season that a character changes. And then the next season will be that character changing a different way. And if you're really good writer in TV, those arcs should happen every episode in different ways. And they didn't even do the arc in the season. And I feel like a lot of people who thought this show was good probably are just thinking, well, yeah, it's good because I imagine the way that they're going to end it will probably be really good. So I'm just here for the ride. But come on, you need to give us some sort of changes in characters throughout as well. And nobody really realized anything. Nobody really changed. And it even starts off I feel like a big theme that they introduce at the beginning with the main CIA investigator is that she asks this person she's interviewing questions about truth and morality, and he ends up giving an answer about how sometimes things aren't just right or wrong or black or white, sometimes they're gray, and she gets all mad, says, "You're out, it's black and white, that's it." Especially when you're working for the CIA, things have to be black or white. This person's good or this person's bad, and that's it. So it's clear, it's like that's supposed to be showing here's how she starts, and she's going to learn throughout the series that things actually are gray at times. But they kind of just let that go. It felt like, yeah, great, awesome setup, cool, let's go. And then this season ends and she's still just everything's black and white. Also, her getting it on with that other dude, There was no chemistry there. That didn't make sense. That was so random. Oh my god. Okay, I don't want to make this whole video about the bad writing. That's not what I wanted to make this video about. I want to make it about this Messiah, the Messiah. If the Messiah showed up, what would you do? And if we ask that question, we also have to ask, well, what do you mean by Messiah? Do you mean it by the 2,000-year-old understanding of the word Messiah? During Jesus' time, there were hundreds of people calling themselves Messiah, and what the word usually meant at that time was a Jewish figure within Judaism who would come and kick the current ruler off their throne, which was Caesar at the time, and reestablish the kingdom of David and the kingdom of Israel. That's what a Messiah was supposed to be. And the thing with Jesus is that his followers figured, okay, everyone else who's calling themselves the Messiah, that's usually what they're after, so that's what you're doing, right? Like his disciples asking him, so when you get on the throne, can I sit on your right and my brother sit on your left? Like, they all expected that to happen, and then he gets killed on a cross. Like all the other people who claimed they were the Messiah at the time, getting killed on a cross was a political execution on a stake on a public hill to deter others from standing up to the powers that be. And so when Jesus dies, this messianic claimant, his followers, instead of changing their idea of who they thought the Messiah was, like every other Messiah, they changed their idea of what they thought the Messiah should be, while still believing that Jesus was the Messiah. And through experiences of the risen Christ, whether you think that was literal physical or more symbolic or more visions, whatever, their experiences, their mystical experiences of this, and changing their understanding of what the Messiah was supposed to be, is why Christianity was started. And so they begin to have the understanding that we're not going to have someone come from the sky and rescue us from the oppression that we're in. We have to choose to fulfill the messianic movement by choosing to be the body of Christ and being empowered by the same Spirit this Jesus was, and continue the work and struggle for our own freedom together through collective action. So, here's what's really important to understand. Jesus is real, is historical for sure, and a symbol. And the power of the Jesus story is more the symbol that Jesus represents than it is the literal historical guy who walked around for century Palestine. But post-Enlightenment, when the goalposts of truth got kind of moved and truth was all about factual, proven data and not larger symbolic truths, capital T truths, when that got excluded from the conversation of what is true, then things got really confused in understanding the Bible and the stories in the Bible. And people started to develop this understanding that Jesus is true and is followable because he literally did these things 2,000 years ago. But when you actually start studying biblical studies and theology and church history, you go way deeper than that and realize, no. The power of the Jesus story is that he lived a life of sacrificial love and justice and encouraged everyone who followed him that they can do the same things he does. And John even tells his followers, you will do greater things than me. And that is how the movement spreads. And that is what makes Jesus followable. Not that he just happens to be a super powerful and strong guy that lived 2,000 years ago, so you better follow him. And I'm saying the people who even followed him when he was alive did so because he was building a movement of disciples, of people who were living exactly as he did and teaching others to live how he did. They weren't following him because of his superpowers. So I'm going through all this just to make the point, the weird, surfacey modern understanding of the Messiah story, of the Jesus story, is that he was attractive because his power, when the more ancient, symbolic, responsible understanding is that he was attractive because he lured others to live like he did. and lived as a symbol, as an exemplar, as an archetype. So, to make a show today about what it would be like if the Messiah showed up today, how would you react? It's very unfortunate that they're choosing a very surfacey understanding of religion and messianic stuff. And they easily, and it would have been a way better show if they just went the symbolic route. In fact, other movies and TV shows have done a messianic thing and went the symbolic route, and it makes it way better. For example, Dark Knight Rises follows the type of messianic pattern that the Gospels do, where Batman is seen as this attractive hero because of what he's doing, but ultimately he shows them that Batman is a symbol, that we can all do what Batman does. And it ends with people believing that he died and choosing to take on the responsibility of the Batman among all the Gothamites. That is the Jesus story. Exactly. It's not that, oh my God, that guy was really powerful, we should just keep following him, and I'm going to tell my grandchildren to keep following him too, even though they didn't know him, because he was like really strong and powerful. Oh my God. The literal interpretation of this stuff keeps it in history. The symbolic makes it last forever. So yeah, it sucks that this show has a very surfacey understanding of religion and the history of religion. I feel like if they would have gotten some good research on that, they could have gone way farther and even made the show way more entertaining. Because I'm not trying to get Netflix to put up a show that's just correct to my beliefs. That's lame. I just want a show that's actually entertaining. And I think if they would have dived into some actual religious research before they went into the show, instead of a very surfacey American understanding of religious research, then it would have been way more entertaining. But I feel like there have been a lot of movies and TV shows that now just use ancient religion as just an inspiration. And they just want to make fiction, but they take a religious story and use it to adapt it into whatever they want and fictionalize it and change details to make what they want. And I think that's fine, sure. But I think it's way better when you're able to have an understanding of the context of your source material. I think you could go way farther and make something way more entertaining when you have that understanding. If you just have the modern American surfacey understanding, it's going to be so dry and lame. Plus, the historical Jesus was way more radical than this Messiah and Netflix. It's also very strange because this Messiah on Netflix likes visiting people of power and places of power in order to spread his message. Jesus, and the reason I keep comparing it to Jesus is because they obviously make several parallels to Jesus. So it's not just me, but Jesus spent his entire ministry with the poor and the oppressed and the outcasts and only among his fellow Jews, and never really traveled outside much of where he was from. And so I feel like already you're talking about a Messiah that's purely about power and not a Messiah that's about the poor and the oppressed. So that sucks. And then also, Jesus was way more radical in his message. Like, this Messiah on Netflix, the radical message he has seems to just be basically like, stop fighting wars, peace among everyone, God loves everyone, everyone is equal, stuff like that. Which, yeah, is definitely really radical for our very right-leaning politics in so many of our countries today. But Jesus wasn't just talking about vague equality. Jesus specifically called for the reversal of the social order. Straight up said, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Blessed are the poor, blessed are those who are hungry, woe to those who are rich, woe to those who are full. And talking about God bringing down the powerful from their thrones and lifting up the lowly. This is a reversal of the social order, which is what made Jesus so revolutionary. This Messiah just wants vague equality. It doesn't go far enough. They don't understand their source material. They're just using this vague, modern, Americanized understanding of the Messiah and then just writing a show where people are impressed and start to question their beliefs and start to question the meaning of life just because they saw a guy do some magic tricks. That's not what actually encourages people to change or to question their beliefs or to think about the meaning of life, seeing a guy do really impressive things. No. Historically, no. Studies of the varieties of religious experience, no. People start to transform and question their beliefs when an experience of the divine happens through them, not just seeing it really cool afar in someone else. And in this show, nothing happens through anyone. Everyone is just staring at this Messiah guy and be like, oh my God, maybe there is something. There was so much potential. It could have been a good show if they understood their source material, as I've said over and over and over. So I'll just end this video by saying, if you do want to see a movie that gets pretty close to the historical context of Jesus and this messianic movement, I would suggest watching the movie Mary Magdalene. And it stars Joaquin Phoenix as Jesus and Rooney Mara as Mary Magdalene. So it kind of sucks, another movie with white people playing Jesus and his followers, but whatever. Besides that, I thought it was really interesting how all the characters and the stuff that they were saying about their poverty and their oppression under the Roman Empire and their run-ins with Roman soldiers and run-ins with tax collectors. It's like that very much was the context of Jesus' movement and his teachings. And so I'd never seen a Jesus movie actually talk about the context of the oppression of the Roman Empire, but that was all over the place. And it's like in the Gospels, they don't write in all this stuff like, oh yeah, and this is a way that the Romans made it really hard for the Jews at this point of this teaching that Jesus said. Because when they were writing it, they were still experiencing the oppression under the Roman Empire, so everyone knew. They didn't need to write it in. I love how John Dominic Crossan says, we need to understand the context of the Roman Empire when we try to understand Jesus the same way we need to understand the context of British imperialism when we try to understand Gandhi, and the context of American racism when we try to understand MLK. Without those contexts, it's like we're not even really talking about the person who actually existed. Also, speaking of John Dominic Crossan, if you just want a basic introduction to the historical Jesus and the radical message of his movement, I would suggest Jesus, A Revolutionary Biography, a startling account of what we can know about the life of Jesus by John Dominic Crossan. This is the Jesus book. I've decided, as I've been using this book as a resource over the last few videos, this is the Jesus book. So please, everyone needs to read that if you want just a basic understanding of the historical Jesus. Also, Reza Aslan, who happens to be a Muslim but is a religious scholar, wrote a book called Zealot about the historical Jesus that is also really, really good as an introduction to historical Jesus studies. And they're actually going to make a movie eventually, maybe in a few years, but I mean, it was already sold, they got the script, all that, based on Reza Aslan's book, and that's going to be the first Jesus movie based on the historical Jesus studies. So that should be good, hopefully, when it eventually comes out. But yeah, I really would like to see people who use religious stories as source material, as inspiration for their fiction today, to go way deeper into the context and actual research of their source material so that they can make stuff way more entertaining. That's what they want to do. That's what we want. I don't care if you change religious stories, no big deal. But when you change it, and it's not nearly as cool as the source material, it's like, okay, why did you change it? Why did you change it? So yeah, okay, that's enough. This is a very rambly video because I just wanted to get this out there because I'm tired of thinking about Messiah, because that show sucked, okay? There we go. That's all I gotta say. If I offended you because you really like the show, I'm sorry, but this isn't a movie or TV review channel, so I usually don't talk about this stuff. What I usually talk about on this channel is historical Jesus stuff, liberation theology, Christianity, and its intersection with leftist politics. So if you're interested in that and you've never seen me before, subscribe to the channel. Check out some of the other videos on here that aren't about TV and movies. And if you would like to follow me on Twitch, that would be great because we get to go on Twitch and stream and talk about this stuff in a more freeform and interactive way. Twitch.tv/whoisdamon. Would love to see you on there. And if you'd like to support me, Of course, you can support me at patreon.com/Damon Garcia. Become a patron today and get access to a bunch of exclusive videos. And let me end this by shouting out my patrons: Keith Wetzel, Blake the Bold, Stephen Harp, Ranger Jenny, Refined Your Scene, James Finlay, New Transcendentalist, Kristen Mouse, Mike Togman, Peter John Blake, Mimi McGann, Callie, Onion, King and James, Tammy D, and everyone else. Very much appreciate you. Thank you for watching this. Maybe you could watch Messiah, maybe not. Whatever, do whatever you want, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.